All right. Hello, everybody. Oh yeah, it shows me now. Okay, so now it shows me uh, the. Okay, now I know because those little lines underneath are highlighted. So we should be live. I'm going to.
Beautiful.
I'm going to text Robin and say, guess what? We made it live. Hold on. Oh, that's so funny. All right, so everyone. Um, oh, do you think it's going to shut off because I had only set it for 15 minutes?
Let's hope not.
All right. So anyone who was here 45 minutes ago knows that I'm pretty punctual, and I was only ever late one other time. And at that time, I was having a heart attack, almost having a serious panic attack. And that was a long time ago. This time, I was with my good friend, Jimmy. Say hi to Jimmy.
Hello, everyone.
I would
Jimmy
like
saves the day.
say what?
Jimmy saved the day.
Exactly. Jimmy saved the day. Big time.
An hour later.
Okay, so Jimmy, I feel very comfortable with Jimmy. I really I adore him. He's a really great guy, and he has a very interesting story. Uh, but when things went awry, I I was okay because Jimmy is very technically savvy, or at least
Some call me a nerd.
yeah, that's right. And definitely much more than I. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And it did take about 43 minutes or so, but Jimmy figured it out. And I'm grateful for that. And I now believe I'm going to be able to, in the future, have the understanding of how to do this. Now, I'm also seeing, Jimmy, do you see on your screen that I've dropped down a menu that shows Facebook and YouTube?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Oh, I should take a screenshot of that too. On my side, it shows me that we have one person following us, which is a miracle since, Oh, wait a minute. I got to do that again. Smile for me, Jimmy. All right. Because it is literally an hour. Anybody who would still be even around is an angel. So this has been an eye opener for me. It's been almost 2 years, guys. And I had been using StreamYard for the entire time. And Riverside has a higher quality, so I decided I was going to make the change and didn't realize that I would be thrown on my back and my butt the way I was. I did laugh a lot, though. And Jimmy was pretty cool about that. He didn't mind too much. So I think now I understand.
Does it show live on your end?
Yes, it says live recording. And when I pull down this little drop down menu, let me try sharing the screen. So, because these are all good things to do, right? For me to practice. See, here we go. This is a screenshot, and I'm pretty good with screenshots. That I can do. So see, I had dropped this little menu down, and it shows 0 on Facebook and 1 on YouTube. And if you are that one, God bless you. So it did do that. So that's good. At least I understand a little bit more on how that works. Now, I had asked.
I don't see them though.
You don't see them there? Oh, I don't
Like
know.
on my
What
phone.
can I say? I can only tell you what I see.
Oh yeah. I think you are now. Hold on.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
I see it.
Yeah. And I'm seeing it also showing up as live and one watching. Don't ask me why.
Yep. I see Robin.
You see Robin? Probably it
Yep.
is Robin. Can you tell
What's
us,
up,
Robin?
Robin?
Can you tell us, Robin? Oh,
Yeah,
because she
because I'm
typed
on
in
the YouTube
chat.
app. I'm on the YouTube app.
Yay, Robin. I love you. Oh, Robin said on the phone, it's me. Oh, I love it.
All right, let's get this
Okay.
puppy on the road.
That is freaking awesome. Freaking awesome to say the least. Thank you, Robin. God bless you. So a whole lot of lessons here, guys. And I do have people call, they know I've been doing this for a while. And usually I have some people here. I mean, not to dismiss Robin, but I'm not a dummy. It's just that I sure didn't get this right. And it did take Jimmy a little while. But you know what Jimmy did that I didn't imagine? We opened up Zoom, and then he was able to see my screen 100% and was able to kind of play around with it. Oh my God, we have 3 people on now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, guys, hi. So I am super, super grateful for that. And I'm now got to start watching the chat. All of these things are new for me. And wait, where do we go? That's the host studio. Oh, that's so cute. You are an angel, Robin. No doubt about it. But I'm not sure how it all works. Anyways, so Jimmy, thank you very, very much. And now that we are finally live, I want to know why instead of your name, you have mine.
So we're gonna be talking about funding, business funding, and I have a little giveaway surprise kit for your viewers. So if they text that keyword to the phone number that they see on the screen, they will get a little gift from me. So I figured let me put it there. It's more important than my name. My name is Jimmy, and yeah, who cares?
How can you be so. All right. I want to know about that gift. And let's talk about, what you are doing with business credit. But before you do, when I first met Jimmy, Jimmy has 2 brands, and one is Becoming Jimmy. And I remember when we first met, I was like, Becoming Jimmy? Why Becoming Jimmy? Can you remember?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So becoming Jimmy to me, it came about like 10 years ago. But basically, I feel like we're always becoming who we are. Like we never end up growing. Even if you're very old and you think you're set in your ways, you end up learning and evolving. Maybe even, everybody has their ways, but maybe you start sharing them more. I feel like older people, they start worrying about what people think about them more. Like they're always like they might cut you off in a line somewhere. They're like I don't care what you're gonna say. Like I'm about to croak, so it's like whatever, right? So even if they had that belief, they're displaying it differently. Um, so I just believe like people are always evolving, and I feel like I'm never gonna end evolving. So I'm always gonna be becoming Jimmy. And it came from the idea that I wanted to do a vlog, and I didn't know what to call it. And I knew that I will always, not will always, but I was hopping from thing to thing like a squirrel. So I was like, what's one thing that's gonna be constant for the rest of my life? And I'm like, all right, it's gonna be me. So let's just call it becoming Jimmy, because no matter what I'm doing, it should all fall under the umbrella of Jimmy. So that was just kind of like my way of
I love
rationalizing
it.
that.
I love it because ever since you first explained that to me, I have been watching you. We spent a fair amount of time together, and I have seen you growing and changing. And I think that is very apropos. And so many of our mentors, not just the one we met through with Pace, who is obviously evolving all the time, but just about everyone is talking about evolution, to change yourself, so I think, and you started it 10 years ago. Bravo. Bravo.
Yeah.
And now I see that, and I had it all set up and we had to close all the windows. I'm sorry, Jimmy, but I know now you have the Fruitful brand. And so you use Fruitful Homes and Fruitful, it's
Yeah.
a lot of different things. So can you
Yeah.
explain, um, what that is, why, when you chose that brand and why that?
Yeah, 100%. It's funny because that ties together with my squirrel brain, right? I created Fruitful back in like 2018, 2019. I thought I was gonna start a credit repair company. So I literally had like 100 names, and it's just every name that I kept thinking of, and I kept checking. I usually check names with their domains. If their domains are www whatever.com, if that thing is not open, to me that name is taken, even if the LLC name is available or whatever. The domain is more important to me than the LLC. But I had like 100 names, and that one is kind of the one that I landed at after 50 other ones that I thought were great. But to my nature, squirrel brain, I've probably gone through three different businesses since then. Um, but I already had the branding done and I like the name Fruitful. So I just keep swapping the bottom of it. So it was Fruitful Credit, and now it went to Fruitful Home Offers, and then now it's Fruitful Funding. So I just keep reusing it, and I like it. I like the name. I like how it all kind of feeds of each other. So I'm noticing a lot of people do that as well. Like I know Ryan Pineda does it with the wealthy way, I think. So it's like wealthy this, wealthy that, wealthy what education, wealthy academy. So so yeah, it
I
came
think
from
that's
the
great.
birth of squirrelness.
I think that's great. When I decided, when you were there, when Jeremy Davis said I should call mine "What the Effie," and everybody said
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, nah, there's going to be complaints, and I started testing it, and I stopped counting over at 100. I said, okay, not a single person has said you shouldn't do that. Everyone has liked it.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to go get it, but I couldn't get it
Mm,
because it was taken,
really?
and yep, and what the Effie hadn't been on Facebook and used the domain for 12 years. So
Oh
I was like,
wow.
now what am I going to do? And it took me a while before I realized all I have to do is add one more underscore because it's what underscore the underscore Effie. That's where
Mm.
you think you're done. But I just added one more underscore in. Problem solved. So it is interesting how we have to work at getting our, brand names. But I don't know. I can't really say. I can say what the Effie podcast, but the other things like what the Effie lending doesn't sound very serious. What the Effie co-living? I don't know. It doesn't have the same ring.
You could do the initials, WTF.
Oh, there you go.
It'll
What?
create a whole different
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What the F lending?
impact, but it's memorable.
True. It is memorable. It is memorable. So it is interesting what happens with the brands. And I would like for you to share with us what. Oops, oh, sorry, I'm seeing chat. So
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
I was doing StreamYard, it was very different. So I knew exactly what was going on, and now I'm checking everything, and I feel like I'm lost. Jonathan, okay, yay! Jonathan joined us too.
Woo,
So
woo.
whoop whoop is right. So talk to us about building business credit. Oh my God. Are we kidding? We're up to 6. What the heck?
I posted it on my socials. Maybe people are coming in from my
No,
Instagram.
I'm not that good. I'm not that good. If I started posting, we probably shut down. All I can say is thank you everyone for coming, and I will do better. And if Jimmy can, put up with me for 44 minutes of how the heck we're going to fix this, all I can say is this one goes to Jimmy for sure,
Yeah.
100%. Talk to us about business credit because, um, most people that are listening that are in real estate or other businesses have got their LLC.
Yeah.
We pay for that. We scramble for the name and the brand and all that
Mo
just to
most
get
of them
started.
are done wrong. If you want to start there.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it was you that had told me about that.
Yeah.
And I did fix it on one of them. Why don't we talk about the errors that people make? The
Yeah,
biggest
for
error.
sure. So that's actually a great segue to the keyword that I put here where it says text Effie to 407-974-6300. And if you do that, it'll ask you for your name and your email, and then I'll give you what I call the red flag kit, which is basically a checklist of all the things that you should have set up correctly or all the potential red flags that you will have, and one of them is the name of your company. But yeah, most people don't know even to backtrack, right? Like, what is business funding? And I like to use the word funding more because it's not about credit. You say business credit and people start thinking about profiles and all kinds of things. At the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about the money. So I just like to focus on the business funding side. I actually don't do credit repair anyway. So I just try to remove that credit word altogether to not confuse people. But your personal credit is important. So you do need decent personal credit. 680 is like, you might get a little bit of something. You really want to be over 720 to get good funding. But most people don't know that even if you have a brand new business that hasn't generated any income or anything like that, as long as you got decent credit, the bank is willing to bet on you. And they're willing to do that with money and what they call unsecured lending or financing, which is, it could be in the form of credit cards, lines of credit, or business loans. But you can get anywhere from 50 to 150,000 right out of the gate to start whatever endeavor you want to start. It could be real estate, it could be whatever, any business really. They don't really care. Um, they care as far as the business structuring and entity and all that, but once you have the funding, like, they're not monitoring what you spend it on. So
Right.
um, you
Talk
can use
about
it for
the
whatever
names
you want.
though, because that was one of the things that you had told me about what you
Say that
should
again.
talk to us about the names, because you were the person who had told me that one of my LLCs, and I won't say it on here because
Yeah, yeah,
the whole idea is not to have people
yeah.
it
Yeah,
connected to you, but it's something housing, um,
yeah.
or properties or
Hmm.
rentals or things like that. And you
Yeah,
were the first one that had said, "Ooh, you're making it hard for yourself." I was like, "What?
yeah. Yeah, it's
Explain it."
funny because I just had somebody message me today or yesterday, and they were like, "Hey, Jimmy, I hear you're the guy that knows all the banks that are friendly to our industry. Let me know who is friendly to our industry." And I'm like, "Nah, not really. I don't look for the needle in the haystack of who's friendly to our industry. I rather make my business friendly to every bank. Like, why search for the ones that actually they don't really even exist?" So to F's point, anything real estate, investing, lending is considered high risk. And when you consider high risk as a lender, from the lender's perspective, they don't want to lend to you, or they will lend to you a lot less. So when you go apply for any type of funding, you got to select what they call an NAICS code, which is your industry code, which just represents what do you do. And we usually go with something like a general administrative management and consulting. Um, if you want to be technical, anybody that does any kind of business or service is a consultant.
Yep. And
Now you can
that's the one
collab.
I went with after we talked, and
Great,
bought cards right away. Um,
awesome.
yeah, I know, but it's the only one I have. And meanwhile, with frickin' Chase, I had close to $1 million in the fucking bank.
Yeah,
And they're
they
like,
don't
"Well,
care.
we'll give you a debit card."
They don't care. They don't care. Yeah, they don't care. You could have $1 million making business that's in the wrong industry and a brand new one that doesn't make any money. They'll take the brand new one that doesn't make any money because they just have a lot of data on this, right? They have a lot of data on how risky or not your business is, how likely you are to succeed, and they'll take a bet on this type of industry that they know for a fact X percentage makes it, X percentage doesn't. So yeah, they don't really care about that.
So then I'm going to see if I can actually write this someplace. I know I should be able to. I don't know how. I wouldn't mind streaming or writing on here. Consulting. I don't know
So
how.
in the kit that if you text me, there's two basically documents on the kit. There's a checklist of all the things that you should have in place to have become fundable, really. And then there's a whole guide on naming your LLC.
Good.
So I already did that for you. If you get that kit, you'll see it'll show you you want to stay with a generic name. So in my case, I usually default to like a operational keyword that doesn't really mean anything, like fruitful, or usually initials. For a lot of our clients, we use the initials. That word doesn't really mean anything, and then you could then do an operator. So in my case, I usually go for management, but I've done management, I've done global, I've done USA, I've done solutions, operations, whatever. Keep it generic. It could even be initials only. So like YYM LLC, like it doesn't matter. Like you just don't wanna blatantly tell them what the thing is that you're doing that's high risk if it is high risk.
Right. So Robin says change it to which code again? And I know we had said, and I will put those in the chats since I don't know how to freaking stream anything right now. Consulting.
Yeah,
Uh,
so consulting management, the specific code that I use is 541.
oh,
Or actually, no, that's marketing. Let me give you the actual one for consulting. It's 541611. That's the specific code that I use for that.
611.
11.
All right. So that's the code, and it actually stands for.
Administrative management and general management consulting services.
Wow. Okay, hold on a minute. Again, nice and slow, because I'm gonna put it in the chat. It will be up there. Say it.
Administrative management and general management consulting services.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is worth, guys. I am so sorry we didn't start on time because of my stupidity. But that alone is worth a lot. Just to know that
Yeah, for sure.
it is just crazy. Had I known that, what happens too is once you buy your LLC, now shutting it down and not using it, it becomes a headache. So
Yeah.
I've just gone
You
ahead.
could technically fix the old LLC. It's just like you said, it's a headache because switching the name with the state, a little bit of a headache, not a huge one. Where it really gets tricky is updating your EIN. So your EIN, you get a letter from the IRS that has your LLC name.
Mhm.
And most companies, lenders, like all kinds of different people verify your LLC name and status with the EIN. So for example, my Fruitful uh, Management LLC, which used to be Fruitful Credit, I switched the name to Fruitful Management, which is fine, is good. Um, but I have issues with it all the time with like Airbnb, for example. Like you got to submit to get a 1099 and get the tax information. And every time I put the name of it with the EIN, they're like, well, we're not able to verify your LLC. So can you update it with the IRS? Yes. Is it easy? Heck no. So I
Do
try
it
to
right
tell
in the
people just
first place.
do it right in the first place. And the same goes for like the address and a bunch of different things, factors that they're all on that checklist.
Mhm.
But there's a bunch of different details that you want to get them right on the beginning because if not going to backtrack and fix all those different documents, then it's just a pain in the butt.
Yep, yep, I fully agree. I remember right then and there realizing, wow, Jimmy knows a lot, about how to set things up besides technology. So, yeah, you want to choose the right name. You want to choose the right um, category,
Industry code. Yeah.
industry code. Okay, good. Industry code. And you don't want to use your home address and silly things like that. So once you've opened up your.
Home address is all right. It's not ideal. Ideally, you have a commercial address, but I use my home address just for convenience sakes. It depends a lot on the state.
Okay.
There are some states, the banks have infinite data. And the banks have enough data on, and this changed a lot, especially after COVID. There's a lot of more home-based business, so it's more standard across the board. But it used to be that not every state was so home-based businessy. So I think Florida just happens to be very home-based businessy before COVID. I'm sure now every state is normal to have a home-based business. But ideally, you want a commercial address, which you could rent. You could do a virtual office, and you got to be careful because some of them are red flags. You don't want to get a UPS PO box, no PO boxes, period, which a lot of people do as well for the LLCs and registered agents and all that. But you can rent one for like about $100 a month. I this is what I tell my clients: don't get a commercial address if you don't plan on keeping it because a lot of them think that they could just get it for a month or two, pay $100 or $200, and then guess what? They're gonna cancel it, and then guess what? You're gonna have to be updating the documents that I'm telling you to set it up correctly, so you don't have to go update them. So
Got it.
we're kind of defeating the purpose here. So only use a commercial address that you can at least have access to for 3 years, I would say.
Got it.
If you're not willing to pay for the 3 years or whatever, just go instantly to the home address. It'll be better than you switching and having the wrong address.
Yep. Sounds good. So once you have your LLC, have all that set up, the name and and the address and the EIN, and you open up a bank account. Talk to us about the banks understand that a business is treated as a person, but there's a person behind it.
Right.
So then, how do you go about? And that's where, am I correct in thinking that's where you're saying your credit does matter?
Yeah. So, as when it comes to funding, there's three different things that the banks will look at as far as judging you whether they should give you funding or not. Right. I call it the three-legged stool. So the first leg of this tool is high accounts receivables. Basically, you make a lot of money. So think about like Apple, right? Like Apple doesn't have any specific person, and they call this personal guaranteeing, right? When you personal guarantee your with your personal credit, they don't have a personal guarantee from anybody because they're a big corporation that makes a lot of money. So think tens of millions, if not millions, to be able to use that only that stool. You only need one leg of the stool really to be able to get funding. So most people don't qualify for that, right? A lot of people are like, hey, yeah, I'm like, you got to make a lot of revenue. I do make a lot of revenue. How much? 100 grand. They don't count that. Um, and not only do you need that tens of millions, you need to have it fully documented and verifiable with tax returns. So even if you make the tens of millions and you haven't filed taxes in the past 2 years, it doesn't count. So if you're behind on your taxes, even if you make a bunch of money, which is normal for entrepreneurs, right, and business owners to be late on their taxes or whatever, extension this, extension that. So even if you do make the revenue, that doesn't really count. The second one is assets. They can basically collateralize with assets, whether that's real estate or equipment, or whatever other kind of assets. You can use that as well. Most new businesses don't have assets either. So the last standing leg or option that you have is really your personal credit. So that's why it's important. It's not because it's the only way to get business credit. It's just you don't have the other two ways
Got it.
99% of the time.
Nice. Nice. It's good to know that. It's very good to know
Yeah.
that. So you're looking for receivables, you're looking for assets, and you're looking for personal credit. So you
Yeah.
go in and you like, I'm okay. I don't have 400 credit. I've got 730 or something like that.
Yeah.
And are you going to just fill out a regular loan application?
No, so there's different ways. First of all, depending on how old the LLC is, the company, it depends kind of what products you qualify for. So usually for any lines of credit or loans, banks want to see you be at least 2 years old or more.
Okay.
So if it's a brand new business, usually you don't even qualify for those products. So that's kind of, let's take them out of the picture. But you usually start with just credit cards, business credit cards, which is different than personal credit cards. They do not report to your personal credit. So although you use your personal credit score to get them,
Yep.
and you do personally guarantee them, so you're responsible for the debt if you default, it
Okay.
doesn't report to your credit.
Nice.
What does that mean, right? If you max out the credit card, your credit could remain at an 800 credit score. And since you keep your good credit score, you could then go get more funding. Now, there's some caveats to that, but in general, it not showing on your personal credit is a great thing. So
I would
you can
say
literally go ahead.
I would agree with that. Am I
Yeah.
also correct in thinking that if you're applying as a business for a credit card, if you have, and you're a new business or 2 years old or whatever, and you have 5 or 6 inquiries, is that seen the same as if you were not a business and you were just an individual and you had 5 or 6 inquiries?
Yeah, the inquiries get weighted the same. Whether it's they're technically always going to be on the personal side because when you apply for the business credit card, they're going to hard inquiry your personal credit, so they're always going to be there. So it's kind of looked at the same. The only benefit though is that when the inquiry is from a business line, it's not attached to your personal. Therefore, it's very easy to remove them.
Okay.
So so usually we'll get a round of funding for our clients, and then we can wipe those inquiries, and it looks like you don't have any inquiries. And that's only easy because it's not connected to any active open accounts. And the reason you can remove them is because you got a personal inquiry about a matter that doesn't is not about a personal. It's not a personal matter. Therefore, it shouldn't be there anyways.
That's good.
So
That's good.
there's benefits to the difference.
Mhm.
You can remove personal inquiries as well, but it does get trickier when you have an open account that's connected to it. You really don't want to touch that. But on the business side, it's fair game always because you will never have that open account connected to it. There's a few banks that do report to business. They report to your personal that even if it's a business credit card, like Capital One, I don't recommend them. We never use them. There's a few others, but we just stay away from them. We don't use them at all. It's usually that's the worst one that most people do get is Capital One.
Which
All
one
the
is,
other
and
ones,
are all the rest considered equal, or are there some that are better?
it's all different. All banks, Chase is always the best one. All your top ones, usually when we start with a client, is all the top national ones. So Chase, American Express, Bank of America, Wells Fargo's, Truist, all your national brands, and then you can start going local and going deeper with either credit unions or what have you.
Oh, okay.
But it usually changes because depending on where you're at, depends the banks that are servicing that area. So we have a client in Hawaii, for example, that Chase doesn't service Hawaii, even though Chase is the largest bank. They just happen to be on the one state that Chase doesn't service. I think it's two. I think it's Hawaii and Alaska that they don't Chase doesn't service anybody there. But even then, there's hacks for that, right? You could do a foreign entity registration on any other state that they operate in, and then you could apply that way.
Oh,
But yeah, the sequence we call it, like what's your sequence for you? We create a custom one for you based on your location. We take into consideration your inquiries as well. Um, and also another big one that most people kind of skip and don't realize is your current relationship with that bank. So for me, for example, I might hate Bank of America. To me, Bank of America is stingy. You could still get $5,000 to $10,000 from them, even with no relationship. But if they happen to be the number one bank that you've been banking with forever, and that's where you have your millions in, then they're consider your application. They're gonna look at your application a lot different than Jimmy. That I don't know who Jimmy is.
got it.
So your relationship with that bank can prioritize different institutions over other ones just because of the relationship. But yeah.
Interesting. That is interesting. So what other things do people make errors on? And I'd like you to talk a little bit about the process, of having your services work for a real estate investor or a business person.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, Honestly, that checklist that if you text the keyword, that's really everything. But I'll kind of run down through most of them. Is your name? That's the number one. Most of everything else is somewhat easier to fix, but the name is the one that's like, ugh. Now you gotta go change documents, update your EIN. Good
Better to
luck.
just close it and start
Huh?
fresh? Is it better to just close it or and start fresh, or does it depend on how long you've had the business too?
I would say depending on the age, because if you have a business that's over that 2 year mark, then it might be worth the headache, right? And the headache is maybe a 2 to 4 to 6 week headache.
Oh, okay.
So, it's not horrible, but we could set up an LLC within 1 hour, like a full business foundation from Jimmy. I need an LLC and everything else that I'm about to mention that you should have, and we could get that done in an hour. So it's basically an hour versus a month and a half.
Wow, that's
So to
good.
me, it's like I'd rather go fresh. Most people usually need a fresh one anyways. There's a bunch of other. So for example, another way that you can mess up the LLC is by being super private with it, right? So in our real estate community, it's super common for somebody to have a Wyoming LLC that's super anonymous this and anonymous that. Banks hate that because for them, how do they verify that you own that company? It's very hard. And 9 times out of 10, anything that would have been automatic approvals, which is what we look for, um, will be a super scrutinized application. So it's not that you can't get funding with them. It's just that they're gonna complicate the heck out of your life. And you still won't be able to get as much funding with them anyways. Because there's banks that don't even have support departments you can call, but they give you a lot of money. So an example is Marcus by GM by Goldman Sachs. We got a credit card with them for $40,000. Me personally, my wife has another one. So just with them alone, we have $80,000 of 0% interest for, I believe it's 18 months. So
Nice.
that's $80,000. But good luck getting them on the phone. You actually can't. Like, there's not even a phone that you could call. You have to like email them. They don't have a. So and they're very tricky with the application, and they're very particular. So a Chase, for example, you might be able to get away with the anonymity. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
But
and
um, but they're gonna ask you to come in, show me your operating agreement, show me
yep.
your articles of incorporation. They're gonna want to see everything, 10 proofs of identification, whatever. You want to stay away from that. The way to do that is just have a properly structured business. But what are the things? So the LLC name, ideally you want a public facing. So what I just explained is being anonymous. You want the opposite. You want a public facing, like me, Jimmy Fuentes. I own this LLC and whatnot. And Jimmy, I want protection, asset protection. Well, yeah, create a different entity for that. These are two different things. You should have an entity that's basically for funding and getting maximum lending or capital access. And then you can have other ones that are holding companies or asset protection companies. So um,
That's interesting. I hadn't thought
yeah,
about that.
of course. Yeah, you can have both. They all have their own place in the structure. So I'm big on and, not ors. And that's just one example. It's not this or that. It's this and this. But So
Good.
you got your name, you got the public facing part. So that means ideally have your name publicly shown, have the address publicly shown, not to an anonymous party, and all the information very easily accessible. Like mine's, if you're in Florida, like I'm all over it. Um, the second thing that you want is ideally a commercial address. If not, home address is fine. No PO boxes, nothing like that. That's horrible. Um, Another one, it goes back to the anonymous thing. Like who is this person? You're a random PO box somewhere. So imagine this: blah 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 home solution investments, horrible name. Address is USPS PO box, and then who owns it is good luck. You're not gonna find me. It's
Yeah,
like you don't want to give money to that person, right? It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and they might still give you money, but trust me, they're gonna put you through hell. Um,
That's funny.
so
Good point.
it's yeah, a lot of it. When you read the checklist, a lot of it is common sense. So you have the name, you have the public facing thing, you have the address, a dedicated business phone number,
Mm.
not my personal cell phone. A lot of people don't have that. Um, Ideally,
Does
with a
that mean
very
that you have
professional.
two different phones?
No, I just have a digital number. There's a million different apps that you can use for it. I personally have a CRM. I use Go High Level, and within there you could get phone numbers. So I just set up a phone number for my clients. We set up their websites. That's another one. Have a website. We set up their website with Go High Level, and in there it's very easy to get a phone number. So we just get a phone number, and it's very easy to add a custom voicemail. So it just kind of lets us easily set up all those bricks for them. But we use AI to create a amazing voicemail with background music and everything. So it sounds like you're calling Chase. It sounds like, "Hi, welcome to calling blah blah," and it has background music and it sounds great, super
Your voice
professional.
will be used for authentication.
Yeah, all that. So that one is not super required, but you should have a professional voicemail. For example, some people like using Google Voice. And the first thing you hear when you call Google Voice is, "Thank you for calling this Google Voice subscriber." You already like lost some points. And you could turn that off. So if you are going to use Google Voice, which is fine, just at least go into the settings and properly set it up. Properly set up a voicemail that doesn't say leave a voicemail for this Google Voice subscriber. Um, I like to record my professional voicemail sometimes, and Google Voice is a pain in the butt because you cannot upload a voicemail. You can only record one live. So I'll have my phone and I will like press play and then I'll press record and like it's just like old school how you used to do it with the phone and the ringtones and whatnot.
Yep.
So phone number, website's another one. A lot of these things again, it's just common sense. Like what kind of business in 2025 doesn't have a phone number? What kind of business doesn't have a address? What kind of business doesn't have a website? Like all these things are common sense. I'm not telling you anything that's like, oh, I didn't think of that. And there's a few of those. Like some of them is get listed on the 411 directory. That's not a standard one that maybe wouldn't be so common sense. It used to be back in the days, right? Like you gotta be on the yellow pages, you gotta be listed on all these things. But nowadays we're so online that to us, especially millennials, like 411, like what are you talking about? So that's
Is
one
that
of
like
those that's like
911?
right. So that's one of those that's a little bit off the beating path. You have what else? Let me think. That's kind of the bulk of it. That's kind of the bulk of it of
Cool.
what you need. There's a couple more things on that checklist, but that's really like the most important parts.
So explain to us the services that you're offering, like how long you've been doing it, where you're at, how much, well, how much it costs might not be as relevant because next month you could
Yeah,
be
it
free,
varies on the
but
person,
how long
but
it takes to go through the process and approximately how long someone could find out whether they're going to get any kind of business funding or not. Explain that process.
yeah, for sure. So we've been doing this now for about a year, um, publicly or not even publicly. We're still kind of in beta mode, and we're doing it behind closed doors. We haven't even started marketing publicly, and we're just getting flooded with either me doing podcasts like these because people keep asking me to come talk about it, or just referrals. So we haven't even publicly marketed anything, but me personally, I've been doing it now for over 7 years. Even before I thought I was gonna start a credit repair company, that's kind of why I got into that. I'm like, oh, I love this. Let me start a company. And I'm like, oh, no, that company, that industry is kind of sucks. But
For credit
I want to,
repair, is that what you?
yeah, it's just
Okay.
the way the easiest way I like to explain it is you're building a business around people that don't pay their bills.
That's a good point.
So it's like it's like trying to pull, trying to pull teeth. Like, hey, I need you to pay me a bunch of money from somebody that doesn't pay a bunch of money to anybody. So it's
Right.
like, eh.
Yeah.
Um,
Although
and
I
again, there's
always do like to remind people that, my credit was really rotten when I came back to the States because I had disappeared, and
yeah,
my credit was great before I went to Canada. But when I came back, they were like, "You've been gone too long."
yeah,
So
yeah,
they dropped it. I had to start over again. I was
yeah,
like, but my credit, I worked so hard so many years to get it up there and everything. They're like, yeah, it disappears after, I don't know, how long does it take?
7 years.
7, and I was gone 14 years.
It takes 7 years if you close the accounts. Like if you would have had, let's say, some credit cards and you left them open and you somewhat used them here and there, it would have remained
Well,
fine. But I'm
yeah,
assuming maybe you
I
closed
did that though.
everything or
I did that though. I had maybe 4 or 5 credit cards that I used when I came down in the States. But it was rare, like 2 times a year, that sort of thing. And I was
were
totally
they
fine.
U.S. credit cards?
Yes, U.S. credit cards.
And they
Because
still and it still wasn't reporting?
no,
Huh.
it wasn't
Interesting.
enough. It wasn't enough action. Um, so, and I don't know, maybe to them it was a bit of a red flag, where the address was, I don't know. But that's what
Yeah.
they had said, and
I
I
wonder if on the background maybe they switched you to international or something. Maybe they put you on a
maybe,
different category that it wasn't reporting to the U.S. based agencies.
right,
Something must have happened. Sounds
exactly.
weird.
Exactly. So it's not everybody that's, doesn't pay
Yeah.
their bills. But I
Very
understand what
special
you're saying.
case.
That's why people usually have poor credit, is because they're not paying their bills. It's the same thing when you're
Yeah.
dealing with knocking foreclosures or pre foreclosures, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People didn't get there because they were paying on time and they forgot
Yeah.
about it.
Exactly.
They got there because they felt they could, without paying. So, yeah, I understand. And you really want to be careful because you don't want to lose your own money knowing that that's, the history of the person. Got it.
Yeah.
So you moved from
100%.
credit repair and started going towards business credit.
No, so I actually got into real estate. That's around the time that I joined Sub 2, around 2020, I would say. So I started getting into credit myself a long time ago. I always tell this little story because it's silly, but I was maybe 18 years old. I was making a little bit under six figures selling things online on Amazon, eBay, and whatnot. I used to sell merchandise, so t-shirts, hoodies, stickers,
Wow.
and I remember my mom. She was like, "Hey, I want you to get it on your own." She got tired of the way that I was paying the bill, the cell phone bill. Mind you, I was never late, so I would pay it early and I would just deposit the money. And sometimes I would pay it early for multiple months. So I would be like, here's 6 months. But it would bother her because she wouldn't get a bill. It would be because usually if you have credit, it'll just, hey, you have enough credit in here, so we're not going to charge you. And then she felt like down the line, she had to pay the full bill
Oh, got it.
rather than me always paying my little portion.
Hmm.
So I was
And
being
it was under her.
overly,
Was it under her name at that time?
Yeah, it was under her name, and I was being overly financially savvy to where I was paying it in advance, and she didn't like how I was doing it. She's like, go on your own. So I tried to go on my own, and thinking here I make plenty of money, and they're like, yeah, you don't qualify for a phone. I'm like, what do you mean? I go buy one cash right now. So you're like, yeah, it seems like you don't have credit or nothing. I'm like, okay. So that's how I
That
went
is
down the
that
rabbit
is
hole.
a kick in the pants, isn't it? When they first tell you, well, it's good that you've been using cash and you're going to need to keep using cash because you don't have credit.
Yeah,
And you're like, well, wait a minute.
yeah,
It is interesting to see that attitude towards cash or
yeah,
how you get that cash.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I got into credit way back then when I was a teenager. But then a little bit before that, before the credit stint, in 2018, before that, I started getting into business, business credit, yeah, business credit, business funding. And the reason I got into it is because they give very large sign-up bonuses. So at the time, to me, it was just free money. I could just apply for a Chase credit card, and if I spent whatever the sign-up bonus threshold thing is, which is like 3 grand in 3 months, I would just switch all my bills over to that one card, and I would just get free $1,000 bonus or whatever sign-up bonus, and then I would do that every month. It was just free money. I would just sign up for a new card and get free $1,500, and then sign up for a new card. They call it credit card churning.
Oh,
So I
that's
did
so
that back in
funny.
like, yeah, I did that back in like 2017, 2018. And then I almost got into credit repair, but even just that little stint, I learned even deeper about different things, not only personal credit, but business credit and funding is kind of intertwined in there a little bit. But right before I decided to join that industry as myself, that's when I saw the Facebook ad from Pace and I joined real estate instead because I was building a business to make a bunch of money and I was fixing my credit, or not fixing my credit, but
Building it.
obsessing over my credit, thinking eventually I want to buy real estate, so I'm gonna need money and I'm gonna need good credit. So let me just get that right. And then I randomly saw a Facebook ad from Pace. Hey, you don't need credit, you don't need money, you don't need nothing. You can buy things creative finance. I'm like, well, so what am I doing this for? So I just I went into real estate. I was like, let me just skip the whole thing. Let me get started.
You and me
Uh,
together. It's exactly what
yeah,
happened.
so yeah, that's what got me there. And I did that now for the past 5 years, basically. I think we joined Sub 2 back in 2020, pretty early on when it kind of, I think it had been around maybe for 3, 4 months, 6 months. I don't know how long it had been going on, but
Wow.
we joined that back then, and I've done pretty much every single family home transaction there is almost. There's a few that I'm missing. I've never done a ground up construction, so I never done a new build. And I've never done like Section 8 or like group homes or nothing like that. But I've done wholesaling, I've wholesale land, I've wholesale houses, I've done fix and flips. I've bought things creatively subject to. I've then turned those properties into either Airbnbs or co-living. I haven't done traditional rental either, just because co-living or Airbnb makes way more money. So I just haven't had to go that route. But I've had my fair share of real estate dwellings and dealings when it comes to single family homes. And honestly, I did most of it with business funding. What got
That's
me into the
good.
business funding business was that I started doing all these deals. I started documenting on my whole Becoming Jimmy online brand, and all my buddies on the real estate community, they're like, dude, like you must have all the private money lenders in the world. And I'm like, yeah, I got the biggest ones. I got Chase, I got Wells Fargo, I got all the people with the billions. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, business funding. Like, you don't use business funding? They're like, no, I go beg for $10,000 from Susie down the street. And she wants to see all this freaking, a whole testament of why she should lend me her 10 grand and then charge me 7, 8, 12%, 20% interest. I'm like, man, I don't show anything to Chase and they give me 0%. So I don't know. You're doing things kind of backwards, but no, I'm being facetious, but I like it all. Like I said earlier, I'm an and person. I'm not an or person. So I use business funding. I do private money lending or borrow private money. I do hard money, which is another source. So yeah, I use it all. I don't discriminate. I did start with business funding though, and business funding allowed me to create a track record that then made getting private money very easy.
Right.
And honestly, not only very easy in the sense that they see me doing it, so they trust in me, but it made it even easier to get better terms because I'm like, no, like, why would I pay you however much percentage? I literally get my first private money person was a very close friend of ours that was waiting around for no lie, maybe 2 years. Like, take my money, please. take my money, please. Take my money, please. And we will always be like, no, thank you. No, thank you. And he insisted so much that eventually we're like, all right, I'll take your money. I'll put you in this subject to deal. It's a buy and hold. So I'll just put you in there and whatever. We'll do a no for a year and then we'll revisit in a year if you want your money back. But we paid him, I forget it wasn't nothing crazy. I think it was 12% maybe max. I definitely did not go anything higher than that. And most people kind of do, especially if you don't have a track record. They start giving you
Oh,
crazy,
absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Effie's probably
I
looking at me like I would never even land at 12%. um, but especially long term, right? But but yeah, it allowed me to not only show a track record, but also negotiate better. Because I'm like, I don't need your
exactly
money. I already have my own money. So if you want to give me my money, I need it on these terms.
got
So
it.
I think it's a great stepping tool. I feel like everybody should do that. Plus, I don't feel great, me personally, I don't feel great about borrowing money if I don't know if I'm gonna do well with it. I didn't care that much about Chase money. So, but I would care about Effie's money. So I'm like, let me experiment with Chase money first.
Yeah. I'm
So,
with you.
you could
I'm with
experiment over
you.
there. You could experiment over there. You could grow a track record. You should document it and
Yep.
put it on social media. And then, but yeah, then you could use all of it. You could use all of it together, and we do use all of it together.
I think that's awesome. So if someone does approach you and say, "Look, I am starting business. I've followed the advice that you gave in the handout. I'm ready to start building." Um, how long do you think, on average, does a client take to build a business credit?
Good question. We can probably get you funded in less than. It depends what you got, right? So, do you have an LLC? No. Then we could get an LLC set up within an hour, give or take, assuming we agree on different things. Sometimes people, it really comes down to how responsive you are and how long you take to make decisions happen. But I could have an LLC done and the whole business foundation, everything, voicemail, phone number, website, LLC, freaking operating agreement. Oh, that's another one that I think I forgot earlier. Um, Register on the 411. All the different things, getting your EIN letter, all these different things. That's another one on the checklist. I don't think I mentioned earlier. You should have an EIN letter. Um,
Yeah, of course.
a lot of people have LLCs with no EIN numbers. And the weird
How?
part is EIN number.
How?
I don't because they're technically separate. So depending how like, especially if you do the LLC yourself with like LegalZoom or something, and you don't want to pay the extra for them to get it for you, they offer it to you, but they're like, no, I'll get it myself. But then you don't go get it. Mind you, it takes like 3 minutes, super quick. But EIN numbers have age as well. That's another way to verify your business age. So some people have 2-year-old LLCs with 1 month old EINs.
That's funny.
So but the speed in a perfect world, let's say you're an easy client and you're dealing with us, we could probably get you fully set up in one day and we could potentially start applying by the next day. So 48 hours.
Cool. And then about how long does it take for banks to make decisions and for cards to be received and things like
So
that?
we usually start with Chase only. Chase is like the king of funding and the king of the whole banking industry. They're the largest bank for a reason, so they have the best everything. So we kind of treat them as priority. We secure that because they give the largest limits as well. They give the past like 4 to 5 people that we've gotten funded with Chase, they all have gotten $50,000 credit card, just one
Nice.
credit card.
Nice.
Um, you don't, and we do that through relationship managers that we have relationships in the inside, human beings. We don't do it online.
Good.
That's a big differentiator of why would I do that, Jimmy? I just apply online. I'm like, well, with us, you're gonna get one. We're gonna review all your stuff. I'm sure you got something wrong. The way I like to explain it to people is like, Jimmy, I didn't have any of that and I still got approved. I'm like, yeah, but for how much?
Mhm.
Because I don't chase approvals. I kind of know if you're gonna get approved just based on your credit score and your profile. So to me, I got approved is not impressive. To me, is you got approved for how much? Did you get approved for a $2,000 credit card? Because that to me is freaking useless. Or did you get approved for 50,000? And now 50,000 times multiple banks is a big difference when you have a
You're
total
not
of
kidding.
150,
Yep.
total 150, 200,000 versus, oh, total I have 7,000. I'm like, all right, good luck. What you gonna do with that? That's maybe one EMD.
Yeah. Really. Really.
Right? So I always tell people like, oh, I didn't do any of that, and I got approved for how much. That's my next follow up question always, how much?
Yep.
Um, but Chase, usually that could take a week because sometimes they're very busy. We submit the application. The personal human is going to submit it. They're going to champion you. And if any issues come back, they're going to try to get it overcome. And if they
Nice.
deny you, like, no, you can't deny them because XYZ reason, right? So they'll champion you and try to get you the highest limit possible. So that might take a week. And then from there, the card might come in, I don't know, a couple of days, sometimes a week.
Got it.
So call it 2 day, 2 weeks maybe,
So
to
under
get
a month.
funding. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and that's for credit card. That's another big myth is that you're gonna hear this thing about you need net 30s and you gotta build your business credit and you gotta do all these different things. That is somewhat true for lines of credit and loans. For business credit cards, they usually don't care. So that's why it's that fast, is because we actually don't do none of the business credit building because you don't need it on the front end, especially with a brand new LLC.
Right.
And here's the funny part. A lot of people force you to get all these net 30 vendor accounts and whatnot, which they're helpful, but they're not required to build your business credit. And let's say if it's a brand new LLC, you're gonna do that to then have to wait 2 years anyways to be able to somewhat use that history that you built. Now here's the funny part. When you get a credit card, a lot of these credit cards do report to your business credit and they end up building your business credit automatically.
Oh, got it. Interesting.
So I like to do both anyways, because the more the merrier.
Yep.
The same way you want a robust personal profile, you want a robust business profile,
Yep.
but you don't need to do it day one. So we have an actual whole step process of 9 different steps.
Hmm.
First step is we optimize your personal credit. The second step is we set up your business foundation or fix your business foundation. So we go through that whole checklist that you're going to basically see when you get that text.
Yep.
The third step is basically we do a custom sequence for you. So we go do research like what's around Effie. Like there's some people that are in the East Coast that they might have access to KeyBank, for example. KeyBank doesn't really operate in Florida. They operate for asset managing and home offices in very unique areas, but they don't actually do their normal banking around here. So there's a bunch of those that depending on where you're at and where your LLC is registered, you could run with this sequence or you could run with that sequence. Then we take into consideration your relationship, like I mentioned earlier, and we create this whole custom roadmap sequence for you. So we have the personal credit, then we get the business right, then we get the roadmap, and then step 4 is get you funded through credit cards mainly. At that point, we move to step number 5, which is basically liquidating those credit cards and taking the money out. We call it cash extraction. So we take that money out, and at that point, then you could start leveraging it. And we take it out the right way. We don't do cash advances. People never do cash advance.
Oh, that's
One, your
terrible. Don't do
actual,
that. Good
yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah, they're gonna charge you some super high fees, and your actual limit is gonna be less. If you look at usually on your bank details, it'll say 50,000 limit on regular credit, 30 cash advance. So you're gonna lose like 20,000 doing it that way. Access to it, it's not like you owe the money, but um, we extract the cash. Step 6 is basically to clean up and remove those inquiries. We're still playing around with the name of that step, but I think right now we have it called infinite loop because it creates almost an infinite loop. You can only apply it but for so many cards or lines of credit as far as hard inquiries. So let's say you got an 800 credit score, beautiful credit score. But once you go past that second or third inquiry, hard inquiry, recent inquiry, on each bureau or really agency, they're not even considered bureaus, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But on each agency, um, they start auto denying you. Doesn't matter how good your credit score is. It's just
Oh,
they see it as a red flag.
yep.
You're going after too much lending, too much money. They're like, we'll stay away. But if you remove them, it kind of loops you around like, all right, we could do this again and again and again. So those are steps 1 to 6. And then step 7, we start diversifying your funding. That's when we start potentially looking into those net 30 vendor accounts and whatnot, or strengthening relationships. That's actually what that step is, step 7. Strengthening relationships. So that's how we do the net 30, building your business credit further. Step 8 is the one that's diversification. So that's when you're ready, we start looking at different sources of funding. It could be lines of credit, it could be loans, and there's actually thousands of other products. Um, there's some that I don't love, but they could be useful in the right situation, like merchant cash advance. They got very high interest. I don't really recommend it. There's factoring, there's SBA loans. Um, they all have their own criteria and needs and requirements, but that's when you start getting to that side, and that could take longer. So we try to get you funded as fast as possible, and there's just a whole roadmap that we have to continue to get you funding. I haven't mentioned this, but I've gotten over $900,000 in business funding just under my name or personally guaranteed by me. My wife has like her own, so we're over a million. And I've yet to
Wow.
even show a tax. I've yet to even show a tax return.
Wow.
So I usually tell people like you get 50 to 150, maybe 200 grand on the first, like, let's say the first 30 days, but you could go a lot further after that.
Wow.
And I have barely scratched the surface. I actually haven't gone that crazy. I probably will start to just for the heck of it, just to like a case study of like how much can we push this, just for the case study of the business. Like, all right, this is how crazy you could get if you want to get crazy.
Wow, that's pretty
But
amazing. Pretty
yeah,
amazing. Wow. Okay. Well, guys, I definitely encourage you to reach out to Jim
yeah,
because he can save not just my life, he can save yours.
for
I
sure.
think that's pretty incredible to be able to do that, and the knowledge. I really do think it has to take a good amount of time and experience to gain it. So good for you. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and I'm absolutely so thankful that you came on here and allowed me to ask questions and get on air. Oh,
We figured it out.
yeah, figuring it out. Well, the funny thing is now I'm afraid to announce next week, but
Now
I
it's easy.
will
Now
be
you just
here.
plan it, send them the invite, and you're good.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. But I do want to say thank you very, very, very much. And thank you to the folks that were so patient and actually still showed up. For those of you that are used to just watching the reruns, this one, this one, we really made the people who come live sweat.
For sure.
Yeah, that was crazy. But thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm not sure if I know how to end this, but we're going to find out. I think that I'm just going to press leave and that ends it, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you all know I don't have an intro and an outro right now. And those of you who have been with me for 2 years know that my intro and outro last for about 6 minutes. Not quite, but pretty long. So don't be disturbed about that. I'm not sure exactly if I ever will get them, want to have them back, but I'd like to thank everyone for being here. Jimmy, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for the rest of you, I believe you're going to see me next week. At least I hope so.
Eventually, at some point, you'll come on live.
No, I'm very punctual, so really bothers me to be late. So yeah, we're going to make it on time. Jimmy, thank you.
Yep.
And everyone have a
Thank
good
you for
week.
the invite.
Are you kidding? Thank you. All right. Bye,
Later.
everyone.